Hey, Pastor Tarun here. Welcome to Authentic Church. It's so good to have you with us. We really pray that this sermon blesses you and helps you to experience the authentic love of Jesus Christ in your life today. Hey, before we get into the message, can you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button so that we can keep you up to date with the latest sermons every week? All right, here's the message.
You know, if you're in the service last week or if you tuned in online at some point during the week, thank you, Kai, you would have heard me pose the question, do you ever feel like Christianity isn't working? I shared with you how you can track along doing all the perceived right things in life, in your walk, in your job, in your relationships, and still everything can seem to go wrong. Proverbs says that there is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. But Jesus tells us, do not let your hearts be troubled, because I am the way, the truth, and the life. And the way matters. We need to take time to be intentional with our walk and our relationship with the Father. And the way that we do that is to take his yoke and be joined to him, and there we will find our rest. For me, coming to the realization that I was becoming unyoked with Jesus resulted in me taking 5 days annual leave and booking a 3-day adventure to the Gold Coast with Tarun and the boys this past week. Good start, don't you think? That's what I thought. Let me break down my week for you. Go something like this, just bear with me. So Monday, I did a run out to the food bank. This is my annual leave. I did a run out to the food bank. I spent a couple of hours there loading up the van. I headed back, dropped off everything for the team to unload, and then I took Taj suit shopping for his formal. I was so excited. Every mum's rite of passage, just putting it out there, Taj. I pack a bag, we leave for the Gold Coast, then we head out for dinner with the family. Tuesday, I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I email Vanessa about payroll. I spend the morning trying to get payroll issues sorted out with the new changes that came in the 1st of July. Giving Vanessa and I some headache, back and forth emails for a couple of hours. Taj says to Tarun and I, you two are working on your holidays, how dumb. Me furiously trying to get payroll sorted so people can get paid and we can head out. I give up and we head out for a few hours. We have some lunch. We decided we're going to go to Pack Fair, so we need to go back to the apartment and pick up the car. I'm just going to duck into the apartment before we leave and do the payroll for everyone that I can, and then fix the ones I can't later. I'll be 15 minutes. So we all go upstairs. Taj, Mum, you said 15 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago. My response was, yep, just give me 15 minutes. We head out, do some shopping, have some dinner, go to the movies. We arrive back at the apartment, and can you guess what I did? Yep, straight back on my laptop to fix the payroll issue and pay the last person that needed to be paid. Are you exhausted yet? So Wednesday, we're up to Wednesday. Tarun and I get up in the morning, we go for a walk, we get a coffee, we come back, we check our emails and plan the day. We had a great day playing pool, bowling, darts, putt-putt, finishing our day off with some Indian food and a walk through the markets. And Thursday, we pack up, we head to Harbour Town, have some lunch, and then we head home. And Friday, I come in, I check in with the team, jump in the van, I head to Food Bank. I do a shop, and then I spend the rest of my last day of my annual leave unloading the van with the team. Not a lot of time left for me, and definitely none for any kind of one-on-one time with God. The title of my message this morning is, When You're Too Busy for What Matters. Little by little, barely noticeable at first, we do a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And we get a little bit more efficient, and we get a little bit more aggressive to succeed, and we take on a job, and then another job. And we don't even notice it. It starts with school. There may be a part-time job, then some more study, then maybe a full-time job, Then you've got a car that needs a payment, and a boyfriend who becomes a husband, and then comes the kids. And all of a sudden, we wake up one day and we feel overwhelmed. I wonder how many of you, in your own way, would say, I always feel a bit rushed or anxious or overwhelmed with all I have to do, and there's just not enough time in the day. If you're like me, we try to squeeze in a little bit more and try to become a little bit more efficient. You find yourself analysing the lines at the supermarket to see which line you can get through that's going to get you through quicker. Or you analyse the potential capacity and speed of a car as you pull up to a set of lights, trying to get behind the right one that's going to go first to get you to your destination faster. Let's just do some real talk today. It's not just about being rushed. But I wonder how many of you would also say occasionally, or maybe even often, that you're disappointed at the way your life is going. Because of the pace and because of the intensity, sometimes you start to think that there's something missing. I have no time to do the things that I want to do. No time to do the things that I love. Or worse yet, I don't really even have time for the people that I love. You might even start to ask yourself, is life really supposed to be this way? What if I told you that the greatest enemy to the life you want just might be the life that you're living? Think about that for a moment. What if I told you the greatest enemy to the life that you want might just be the life that you're already living? It's true for me. In fact, you don't have to be around me for very long to notice that I don't really do slow. Do I, Rick? My husband will tell you that I don't sit still very long. I'll always find something that needs doing. I'll say things like, I'll slow down when I get to heaven, or I'll sleep when I'm dead, joking, not joking. I'm guessing that a lot of you are busier than you know you should be. Because we've all got places to be, and jobs to do, and bills to pay, and kitchens to clean, and kids to raise, and we've got those lawns that need mowing, and the dinner to cook, and clothes to wash, and more clothes to wash, and even more clothes to wash. In fact, right now, my bedroom looks like a laundromat. I've got so much washing, baskets everywhere, that need folding that I just haven't had time. How about you? We've got those photos to take, and those captions to write, and that Netflix series to binge out on. And you're all thinking about it now, aren't you? And just because the pace of life is what it is, you find yourself going faster and faster and doing more and more until you're sprinting through life. And you start to realise that I don't have time for the things I wish I had time for. We really don't have time for meals with our family anymore. It's true in my house. And we don't really have time for deep conversation with our friends. And we don't have time to rest or reflect or read or really enjoy intimacy with our Heavenly Father. We just don't have the time that we want. But the good news is that neither does anybody else. So it must be okay, right? Everybody else is busy, so that just must be, that's God's will. But what if I told you that the greatest enemy to the life that you want might just be the life that you're currently living? And that's why this month we're doing a series called A Better Way. We're not just looking at the truth of Jesus, but we're also examining the way that Jesus lived and the way that Jesus loved. In fact, when you look at the Gospels and take a step back, it's pretty fascinating to think about the way that Jesus lived. He had 3 years of ministry, and that was it. 3 years of public ministry. And in those 3 years, he embraced his Father's mission. He recruited a team of 12 rejects and trained them in kingdom values. He endured the hatred of the Pharisees. He resisted the temptation of the devil. He healed all kinds of sick people. He even loved on all sorts of hurting people. He preached the word of God fearlessly. And he fulfilled 351 Old Testament prophecies. He must have been tired. I'm feeling tired reading this. And Jesus never once ran. Do you feel like you're just running through your life? When you read the Gospels, there's no record of him ever running, not jogging, not fast walking, not skipping, and definitely not sprinting. Jesus was busy, but never rushed. He never said to his disciples, "Come on, fellas, we're behind in schedule. Hurry up, let's go. Thomas is late. Just leave him behind. We're going to teach him a lesson. They need us in Capernaum, so we've got to leave right now." I remember thinking when Taj was about 2, and I can't believe I'm going to admit this out loud. And I was trying to get him to put his shoes on, and he was so stubborn that I can do it myself, Mum, you know that. And I'm trying to get at the door because Kai was late for school every day. He's late for school, so I'm trying to get Taj out the door. And I contemplated just leaving him at home and racing up the road. I didn't do it. But, sometimes Jesus didn't do that, right? He took time to do his shoelaces up, to say, "Come on, Taj, you can do this," to be ready 5 minutes earlier, so Taj had the extra 5. I love you, Taj. In fact, I'm going to show you a phrase from Mark's Gospel. And this is a phrase that you see over and over again in the Gospels. Mark said this about Jesus. He said, as Jesus walked along. As Jesus walked along, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at a tax collector's booth. And Jesus said to him, "Follow me." And Levi got up and followed Jesus. Here's the catch. If Jesus was unrushed and Levi followed Jesus, where he walked with Jesus, then would it be safe to assume that Levi would have been living an unrushed life? If we follow Jesus, an unrushed Jesus, then we too should be living an unrushed life. I don't know about you, but the way I live certainly is very different from the way Jesus lived. So, if you find yourself like me this week and you're meant to be having some downtime, but there's always things to do and always things still to be done, and you're often rushed and you're stressed and you're overwhelmed, or you're exhausted trying to get it all done, always feeling like you're falling short, Jesus invites you to come. He invites you to come if you're worn out, if you're overwhelmed, if you're burdened, and he will give you a heavenly rest. Last week we looked at Matthew 11:28 in the new NIV. But this morning I'm going to read it to you from the Message version. Did we get that, Mucky? No, wrong one. That's okay. You can take that down, Mucky. Are you tired? This is the version. This is the Message version. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me and watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Isn't that beautiful? I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Don't you just love that version? It's just, I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you, which means that all the trials, all the turbulence we go through, God already knows. He's not going to give us more than we can handle. Jesus is saying, get away with me and you'll recover your life. Walk with me and watch how I walk. Watch how I love. Watch how I live. And just walk with me. Don't just believe what Jesus believed, but also live the way that Jesus lived. It's fascinating to think about what Jesus did. He was baptized by God the Father. Heaven opens up. The Holy Spirit descends upon him in the form of a dove. And the Father says, "This is my Son whom I love. With him I am well pleased." God affirms him before he publicly does any miracles. And so Jesus is commissioned to change the world. He's ready to go out and do what he was created to do. And what's the first thing he does? He takes a sabbatical. The Spirit leads him out into the dry place for 40 days. So the first thing he does is take a break for 40 days just to draw close to God. So he's strengthened by God. He fights off the enemy and his identity is solidified in who he is called to be. He takes 40 days just to go and be with Jesus, to go and be with God. Think about his first miracle. Jesus went to a wedding. He stayed till the very end. And then when they ran out of party juice, he turned the water into wine. And he said, let's just get the party keep going. Let's just enjoy each other's company. How often when we're in the presence of people that we love, we're busy thinking about all the things that we need to do, and when's a good time to cut out? Not because we don't love the person, it's because we feel the pressures of all the other things in our life that we need to get done. I'm thinking about all my washing, I'm going to go home and fold. Another time, a synagogue leader came up to him. His name was Jairus. And he was freaking out because his little girl was dying. And he says to Jesus, "You've got to come and save her." And Jesus is like, "Calm down, mate. I'll get there." And so Jesus starts walking. And as he's walking along, another woman comes to him and she's crying and she stops him. And this woman's been sick for 12 years. And as the other little girl's dying, he gives this woman his undivided attention and he heals her. And while he's busy healing, giving this sick woman his undivided attention, the little girl dies. And Dad's beside himself, and who wouldn't be? His daughter's sick. He goes to Jesus for help. And Jesus is like, "It's all good. I'll get there." And Jesus says, "Time is in my hands," and he heals her. Jesus wasn't rushed. And we're called to follow Jesus. So if Jesus wasn't rushed, why do you think we are? Have you ever thought about that? My guess is, if we really want to simplify it, most of us are rushed over life's pressures or pushing it because we're either running from something or we're running to something. You might be running from something someone once said about you. Or you might be running from something someone once did to you. Or you might be running from an insecurity that you want to overcome and you want to prove people wrong. You might be running from hurt. Or you might be running towards something. You've got a goal or a vision. You're going to get married. He's going to love Jesus. We're going to have a couple of kids. We're going to name them, I don't know, whatever, Mary and Joseph. You're running towards success. You're running towards an image. You're running towards popularity, towards being liked. You're running towards being accepted. The problem for most people in today's culture, you're chasing a life that will leave you empty once you find it. Always rushed, always pushing it. But I want to challenge you today with this thought. You have time for what you choose to have time for. Let me say that again. You have time for what you choose to have time for. And the solution isn't more time. The solution is more of what matters. And the reason why most of us don't have time for what matters is because we're mindlessly spending our life on what doesn't really matter. Social media, TV, video games. What's your pick? Did you know that on average, we, the collective we, each of us spend up to 706 hours per year on social media? Why is no one shocked? I was shocked. 706 hours a year on social media. The average person spends roughly 29 days without sleep. That's like a whole month of your life that you will never get back. Just scrolling through social media, giving your finger a workout. You have time for what you choose to have time for. Television's a little worse. Roughly over 27,000 hours binge watching the latest version of whatever your favourite show is. That's approximately 112 days, or almost 4 months of your year. You're never getting back. Crazy, isn't it? You have time for what you choose to have time for. And video games? Let's not go there. I don't even want to think about the number of hours. Harley's like hiding my face. I don't want to think about the number of hours spent playing video games. I've got some boys. I'm forever going, get off your technology. You know, when Kai was about 13, there was a new game coming out for his Switch, and he really wanted to get it with the midnight release so he didn't miss out. And he begged me, he's like, Mum, can we please go to the midnight release so I don't miss out? And Kai just never says no to anything. And so I said, yep, no worries, let's go. So I took him down there. And I can't even begin to tell you how many people there were waiting there at midnight, including us, mostly grown adults, and some of them even with babies at midnight, waiting to get in to buy some new release game. Now, I don't mean to sound judgmental, but isn't it crazy? Like, how many of you get up at midnight to pray? How many of us get up at midnight to journal? But we were at midnight, waiting for this game. We're standing in this queue. It's crazy. Because we have time for what we choose to have time for. What if the greatest enemy to your life, to the life that you want, is the way you're living your life today? Jesus said to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbour as yourself. At the core of all of that, God calls us to love, to be loved by Him, to love Him, and to love people on behalf of Him. The challenge for us is that love is completely incompatible with hurry. Let me say that again. The challenge for us is that love is completely incompatible with hurry. And I don't know about you, but I'm always in a hurry. The Bible says Paul's first definition of love is that it is patient. Love takes time, but hurry doesn't take time. We can't do this on our own. We can only do it with the help of God. So we need to ask Him every day, God, help me to walk slowly through the experience. Let me read it again. God, help me walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully and love people deeply. Let me read that again. God, help me walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully and love people deeply. We need to ask Him and keep asking Him. And it's deep work, and it's real work, and it's healing work. And it allows us to learn to be more present, and it forces us to choose what is important and to eliminate what's not. It will help us to say no to what doesn't matter and yes to what does, because you have time for what you choose to have time for. The solution is not more time. The solution is more time of what matters. And most importantly, it will help to sense God's presence and recognize his voice, helping us see him working in places that we were too busy to notice in the hurry of life. You know, those times where we go, God, where are you? But we never actually stop to see where God is. And then we have those hindsight moments 6 months later after we've been through all the stress and the anxiety of, God, where are you? And, you know, why didn't you give me that house? We spent months trying to get this house, God, and it all fell apart at the last minute. And then God gives me this house that was way more than I could have imagined and expected. And I go, okay, sorry, God, I did it again. Because I didn't take time to be intimate to hear what God's plan was. Think about this for a moment. As Jesus walked along, every person that Jesus loved and every miracle that Jesus performed, he did as he walked. And as he walked along, God used him. So every day when you wake up, ask him, God, help me to walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully and to love people deeply. As Jesus walked all of his ministry, all of his life, following the will of the Father, where was Jesus walking? Jesus was always walking towards the cross. Day after day, step after step, moment after moment, he was fulfilling God's calling for him and expressing the deepest and most profound love for us. He was walking towards the cross. And so, when we know Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, we don't just embrace the truth that he taught, but we also live and love the way that Jesus lived and the way that Jesus loved. Imagine if an angry and hurting and divided world, if there was a loving, caring, and united church walking slowly enough to engage with those who are far from God. Let me read that again. Imagine if in an angry and hurting and divided world, if there was a loving, caring, and united church walking slowly enough to engage with those who are far from God. To show the love of God who stepped out of heaven and came to earth in the person of his perfect and sinless Son, Jesus, who day after day walked towards the cross to give you life and to give his life for you. If you're following Jesus, have a guess where you're walking. You're walking to lay down your life for something so much more important. And the answer is not more time. It's more of what matters. You have time to choose. You have time for what you choose to have time for. So every day, our prayer needs to be, God, help me walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully and to love people deeply.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We really pray that that message blessed you. If you enjoyed it, why don't you share it with a friend that you think will enjoy it also? And hit a like and give us a comment because we'd love to hear back from you. If you'd like to give to the work of Authentic Church or get more involved, head over to our website, authenticchurch.com.au. We look forward to seeing you next time.